Joined by Peter Zalmayev. He's the director of the Eurasia Democracy Initiative, joining us from Kiev, Ukraine. So thanks for being with us today. Before we talk about, a lot more of the layers to this, I'm very interested in how this strike in Sudan is being talked about in Ukrainian media or official circles today. What's the discussion like in Kiev?
Well, this is the discussion that is being had right now in Kiev, such as it may be, is very much along the lines of this sort of policy of ambiguity about strikes which happen outside of the territory of Ukraine, or at least occupied territory of Ukraine, such as Crimea and the Donbass. Throughout this war, strikes have happened inside Russia's territory as far as Pskov, even further north of Moscow, and now this in Sudan. So the official policy is not to acknowledge these strikes, but also not to necessarily deny the fact that Ukraine at least may have an interest in seeing these sorts of things happen. And once again, as you reported, with the by referring to the CNN report, Wagner Group is very much active and has been active not only in Sudan but elsewhere in Africa. And to me, it seems that pursuing members of Wagner Group, which have been responsible for a whole lot of atrocities in Ukraine, could be similar to Israel's policy of hunting down Nazi criminals by Mossad in the years after World War II.
Intriguing that you mentioned the Mossad. I mean, just yesterday, as the Israeli delegation met with the Ukrainian delegation, the president and prime minister meeting, the chief of the Mossad was there, David Barnea, and there was a warm embrace between President Zelensky and the head of the Mossad here. So very intriguing there. Obviously, we're left to speculate. But look, this report, highlights this was an incredible intelligence operation in Sudan right now. Everything recorded, all the footage of every strike, so many strikes perfectly recorded on video, the coordination that this requires. This was a high-level intelligence operation. Now, does this surprise? Is this a surprising level of capability for Ukraine?
Well, not anymore. Now that Ukraine has pioneered its own sort of rocket called Neptune, a missile that can strike sea targets, but also targets on land. Ukraine was able to take out two very costly, very important air defense systems, S-400 Triumphs in Crimea just in the last month. And overall, I think Ukraine is really moving to this league of very serious military players. You could make an argument that, after the Russian military, Ukraine is very much the second largest and strongest military in Europe, if not the first. Russia is obviously having its capabilities degraded. And actually, this is what the local experts are saying. They're warning that NATO may be a little bit discomfited by this sort of this very steep rise in Ukraine's capabilities. And maybe that has sort of been the fear factor when NATO approaches the issue of whether to accept Ukraine or not.
Well, certainly that was expressed by the former Wagner chief, Prigozhin, that the war had the inverse effect of actually creating Ukraine as a true military power in the region. Look, it appears outwardly that Ukraine is increasingly finding utility or success, we could say, with these innovative battlefield techniques. You touch on some of those here with the S-400s, small drone boats, the special forces, planting explosives, perhaps a raid in Sudan now. This is fit the profile of just how Ukraine is trying to change the situation and innovate on the battlefield.
Indeed, and this obviously is becoming very much a drone warfare. Russia is also not sleeping. It's it's actually ratcheting up its production of drones, including with the Iranian technology, and it's launching drones against Ukraine's territory almost daily and nightly. So this will be up for Ukraine to, in the weeks and months to come, to try to at least match Russia's capability in drones. It's all good that we're receiving tanks. We will eventually receive F-16s and maybe ATACMS long-range missiles, but by themselves, none of these will have a decisive edge. Drones is, by all accounts, from what we hear from experts, is where it's at, and Ukraine is actually making a significant effort to ratchet up its production of that.
So much to keep track of here, and the Sudan story just piles on top of it all. Peter Zalmayev, thanks for being with us. Fascinating set of issues up for discussion here, so thanks for your input.
Thank you.